Hi, and welcome to this month's edition of A Virtual Cuppa with me, Tracy Collins from UK Travel Planning. So, this month I had a fantastic discussion and chat with SallyAnn James from North Coast Explorer Tours, who are based in the far north of Scotland. Now, if this is a part of the world that you'd like to know more about, you're considering to visit, then it's an absolutely fantastic episode to listen to and to watch as well, because both SallyAnn and myself have gone through our archives and found some of the best footage that we have from far north Scotland. And believe me, it is the most beautiful, beautiful area of the world. So sit back, have a cup of tea, and join myself and SallyAnn for a virtual cuppa and learn all about far north Scotland. And believe me, if after listening to this and watching the video footage, you do not want to visit far north Scotland, I'd be really surprised, because honestly, it is just the most wonderful area of the world to visit.
Good morning to you. Well, I guess it's not morning where you are, but it's certainly morning here. We're good. I'm very glad that we're now here because I've been waiting for my cup of tea this morning. We've had a good season so far. It's been very busy. It was a slow start in April, but May and June just absolutely really, really busy, and we're booked out now for the rest of our season. So that's really good. Our first guests of the season came from New Zealand, so that was great. And then we've had quite a few Americans this year, and we're currently hosting an Indian family.
From the guests that you've had, what sort of feedback have you had from them in terms of their favourite places that they've been to? What have people come back and went, wow? I know they probably said that every single day, but kind of that real wow, this is just something else.
I think it's really interesting, actually. And Robert and I talked about it last night. I actually asked him that question because you would think, being the North Highlands, people get really excited about the mountains and that side of the scenery, because that's what people expect. But I think the things that give people the wow factor are the things they're not expecting. So it's the stunning beaches that we have up here. That's one thing, including Hidden Beach. I know one set of guests, that was a real highlight for us. That's something I talked about on one of the podcasts. And the other thing is the inland part, the part of the flow country, which is something else we've talked about. But I think that is a wow place. It's just so totally different. And definitely people, more than one lot of guests this year has found that absolutely sort of almost exhilarating, because it's so remote, so wild, so different to anything else.
And it's like the sheer diversity of what you've got up there, like you say, beaches, coastline, mountains.
It is, it's so different. I think it's because, there's such a lack of population and really just a general lack of buildings when you go inland and also when you head west. And there's a lot of moorland, so a lot of peatland. So it's a really different landscape to what most people are used to or have experienced before. And I think that's what makes it so different. And it is that people come thinking mountains, scenery, maybe rivers or whatever, but there's a lot more to it. And it's still a hidden secret. I think that's the thing. And that's the thing that's really so wonderful about it.
Have you found that any of the guests this year have asked for particular places, or I know because the North Coast 500 is a pretty popular route, and that's coming up more and more. Have people said more about the North Coast 500 or particular places?
I think most people that come to us have probably heard of the North Coast 500. And we've done a lot of longer tours this year, 6, 7, 8 days, all around the coastal area and including some of inland. So most know of or have heard of the North Coast 500, which is great for us because I think that's what's inspired them. We always say, what do you want to see, or is there anything specific you've read about or aware of you'd like to see? Sometimes they might say, well, I'm interested in history, or they might say, well, I want to see I would say Islay and Donnan Castle. It's not strictly on the North Coast 500 route, but it's one of these popular places, one of these places people are aware of. So, and if that's the case, then we'll show it to them. But a lot of people are just aware that it's a really scenic route and they'd like to experience it. We've got, what's been interesting this year is we've had people who have wanted to do the general route. We've got a couple in August. They really are interested in the Highland clearances. And so we've created a tour that's sort of focused on a lot of the sites that encompass that, as well as a more general approach as well. And then we've also got a couple coming from the US who have got family history, and they're really interested to learn about some of the clan history and see some of the sites associated with that. So we've tailored a tour for them as well. So it's really varied, actually, in terms of why people come and what interests them and what sparks their imagination.
What about that wildlife? Because obviously I'll remember we stayed in like a shepherd's hut, and we woke up in the morning and we were driving to catch the ferry over to Orkney, and we were just surrounded by deer. It was fabulous, absolutely fantastic. There were just deer everywhere.
The wildlife is something that I think really excites most people. I don't know if it's that they're not expecting it, but to actually see it in reality is great. And we've had a lot of that this year, actually, particularly coming up through the middle. I think when you stayed, you were, well, near the coast, but still inland a bit. And a lot of our guests have seen red deer this year, and they've all been very excited about it. Yeah, we've had puffins. It's puffin season at the moment. I know people are always, interested in that. Puffin season tends to be April to July, roughly. But if you either get there when they first fly in from the sea, or really the second half of June into July is a good time to see them, because that's when they've given birth and they're going backwards and forwards getting food. So yeah, the last 2 or 3 tours we've had, people have definitely seen puffins, and yeah, love them, absolutely love them. So puffins, seals, people get to see the seals. One of the hotels that Robert was staying in this week was on a loch, and actually he looked out of his bedroom window like you, and there was a deer right there. So yeah, the wildlife is amazing. And yes, we've had orca around the coast as well this year, but not that our guests have seen it, I don't think. But I mean, that's just one of those things they might do. So yeah, it's a fabulous place for wildlife.
Oh, fantastic. It sounds like you've had a really busy and varied season. So what are your plans for the rest of the season?
Well, we're pretty booked up from now until middle of October. Actually, I think is our final big tour. That's good for us in terms of the season. So we have a lot of Americans, and it's great. We love it. I know they really enjoy it. So I think we've got a few British, actually. We still have the Brits coming up here too. But yeah, we're pretty full on. And as I said, we've got this variety of tours. Quite a lot of long ones. We've got a 4-day one, a 5-day one. So, we're quite flexible with that. And then we work with you. And I guess for me personally, I'm now looking at next year. I had a call yesterday actually with somebody in Melbourne, and planning out the potential of an 8-day tour next early summer. So yeah, I'm sort of beginning now to think about next year and and our offer, and waiting for people to say, can we come and see you?
Once you finish the season, what do you do? Do you just kind of chill out for a few months, start organizing next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny because people think, you probably shut up shop and go and lie on a beach for 6 months. But of course, it doesn't work like that. We do, as when we do the background stuff, Rob is always researching. So he continues to read, and he's also still studying. He's been doing a degree on Highland history, heritage and culture. So he does that in the background as well. So he's always learning. clearly we're still dealing with, that's when a lot of our inquiries come in over the winter. So we're doing that sort of planning, which is, if you do inquire, then you'll probably be in contact with me in the first instance, and we try and gauge what you want to get from your holiday, and then we'll put sort of draft itineraries together. And so a lot of that work happens over the winter. We are not local to the north of Scotland. We moved up here 10 years ago. We come from the south of England. So obviously that's also an opportunity for us to just head south for a wee time and go and visit family and friends. We might get a sneaky holiday in there, but to be honest, it's just our time to also enjoy our beautiful area, just ourselves, with our 2 dogs who we call our apprentice explorers. So yeah, that's sort of our winter time. I can't even contemplate it at the moment, to be honest. There's so much going on in the midst of this season, but yeah, it is our calmer time for sure.
And hear more of SallyAnn on the 3 podcasts, and hopefully later on the year as well we can have another chat. But it's been great catching up with you, SallyAnn, and having a cuppa across the miles.
Oh yes, so go.